Hello everybody, happy Tuesday afternoon, hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first we just hit 2,460 subscribers to the channel. Shout out to all the subscribers, and special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially elite channel members Y2KHA, Brandon McKell, Rip, Scott Todd, Hot Hasher for MVP, VGK Tiger 75, Salacious Crumb, and new elite channel member, Reicherter. Alright, so first of all, yes, it's very obvious I've gotten a haircut and I've decided to go very short because, well, when you're not really ever leaving your house, who really cares what you look like? So go ahead and get that out of your system. Go ahead and leave a comment, say nice haircut or bad haircut or whatever it is. Believe me, I'm not trying to pretend that I didn't get a haircut, so I know everybody's going to leave comments about it, so go ahead and do that now. Alright, now that out of the way, we are going to continue with our running off-season series about upcoming Seahawks free agents. We started with Chris Carson months ago. We did Postic last week. Today, we're going to be moving to the defensive side of the football. Like I said, we're going to go through with the starters, and then we're going to loop back around for the more part-time players. So today, we're going to be taking a look at Benson Mayowa. And I know a lot of people out there might have just gone, oh, I don't care about Benson Mayowa. He's not that good. He's not that valuable. What does it matter if we bring him back or not? Well, after doing a little bit of research, I actually found it is possible, maybe even likely, that Mayowa commands a decently sized contract this offseason, and the Seahawks may very well have a somewhat difficult decision on whether or not they want to keep him. So let's jump in and take a look at Benson Mayowa. He's only been on the team for 1 year. He was here years ago, but he signed a 1 year, I think, $3 million deal in the offseason, and he played really well. So let's try to familiarize ourselves with what he did. He played in 13 games. He did get hurt and miss a couple games. Started 9 games, so he did start most of the games, and he actually played a decent number of snaps, maybe too many in quite a few games. So as for his relevant stats as an edge rusher, Benson Mayowa had 6 sacks on the 2020 season, which is, you know, workable, pretty decent, and 22 pressures. He had 24 total tackles, so not an elite player by any stretch of the imaginations, but these numbers are pretty decent, and they put him in the same category as some other players who have earned decent paychecks recently. And just for the sake of making things as robust as possible, let's take a look at his Pro Football Focus grade, and you can see in 2020 his Pro Football Focus grade was 60 on the nose. So what we're looking at in Benson Mayowa is a decent, workable, capable player who can be a low-end starter or a high-end backup, and he's not necessarily going to be signing another 1 year, $3 million deal this offseason. In fact, according to my research, he may very well be justified in asking for a significant raise. As for how big that raise might be, let's go ahead and run through some different player comps. Now, before we get into this, one thing I want to say, Benson Mayowa, I feel like we can take or leave. We do have LJ Collier, who is improving as a player. We still have Dunlap, and this time we're going to have Dunlap for a full season. We're going to have Darrell Taylor, which we didn't really have at all in 2020. So if Mayowa leaves, we have young guys who will get better, and we have some basically new guys who can fill that void. So it's not like Mayowa is the most important player in the world to keep around, but if you do want to keep him around, what's it going to take? Well, here are the list of edge players, and they are ordered by the average size of their contract per year. And obviously, Benson Mayowa has no business being with any of these guys. Joey Bosa, no. Myles Garrett, no. Khalil Mack, no. He's not even close to these guys. So we're going to go way, way down, and we're going to try to find players who, in terms of ability and talent, are comparable to Benson Mayowa. So we're going down, 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 still down, still down, still down, And when we get past the top 35, I think we might be starting to get somewhere. So let's start with Mario Addison. We're going to be looking at players who signed an extension in the last offseason or maybe 2 off seasons ago to try to frame this right. So starting with Mario Addison, who signed a 3-year, $30.5 million deal last year with Buffalo. Is he comparable to Benson Mayowa and what he did in 2020? Well, he earned this contract with his play in 2019. So let's look at Mario Addison in 2019 for the Panthers. Played in 15 games, so he played more than Mayowa. He had 9.5 sacks, which is a good amount more than Mayowa. He did have 22 pressures, though, which is pretty close to what Mayowa had in 2020. So he seems to be better than Mayowa by a pretty good amount, but we're not that far away. And as for Mario's Pro Football Focus grade in 2019, it was 63.4. So Mario Addison, better player than Benson Mayowa and deserves a bigger contract. So we're not there yet, but let's keep going. Okay, let's go down to, let's say Jordan Phillips, because he also signed a 3-year, $30 million deal in the most recent offseason. So what about Jordan Phillips? What did he do in 2019 to earn this contract? He played 16 games for Buffalo. It's actually interesting that Pro Football Reference lists him as a tackle and Spotrac lists him as an edge, but I'm not 100% sure what the truth is. Odds are he moves back and forth between the two spots. But anyway, regardless, Jordan Phillips had 9.5 sacks in 2019 and 20 pressures. So more sacks. He had the same number of sacks that Mario Addison did. Not a lot of pressures, though. And this, while Phillips probably had a better season than Mayowa, it's not as big a blowout as you might think. And to add on to that, Jordan Phillips is not liked very much by Pro Football Focus. They gave him a grade of 54, not even 54, for what he did in 2019. I think partially because he doesn't get that many pressures despite getting a lot of sacks. So, okay, I don't think we're there yet, but we're getting there. So let's go back to the list. Let's go down to Shaq Lawson because he had the exact same extension that Jordan Phillips got. He got it with the Dolphins last offseason. So Shaq Lawson, let's take a look at what he did in 2019. Played in 19 games, did not start a single game, which is kind of interesting. He had 6.5 sacks, so pretty comparable to Benson Mayowa, and he had 28 pressures, which is a little more than what Mayowa had as a 13-game player in 2020. So, again, a little bit better than Mayowa, but we're not that far off. And if you go to Pro Football Focus, they like Shaq Lawson quite a bit. They gave him a PFF grade of 68, a little above 68. So, again, Shaq's better, but we're not that far off. So let's keep going. Let's go past Shaq Lawson. Let's keep going and going. And let's take a look at Carl Nassib, who signed a 3-year deal last offseason with the Raiders. And let's see how close we're getting. So 2019, Carl Nassib played in 14 games. He had 6 sacks. Okay. Exactly the same as Mayowa in 2020. And he had 17 pressures, which is actually a decent amount less than what Mayowa had in 2020. 34 tackles. So he was maybe roughly equivalent, maybe a tiny bit better according to the rough stats. And Pro Football Focus says he was a good deal better. They give him a PFF grade in 2019 of 69.2. So he's probably a little better of a player, but we are getting very close to being in the right range for Mayowa. All right, so Carl Nassib, let's keep going past him. Let's go one down to Henry Anderson and his 3-year, $8.4 million per year deal. So we're still pretty pricey here. And if you take a look at Henry Anderson and what he did in 2019 to earn this extension, well, okay, let me make sure. Okay, yeah, no, I'm sorry, 2018. 2018 was the year he had before the extension. He had 7 sacks and 20 pressures. pretty darn close to the kind of stuff that Benson Mayowa was doing for us last year. We're close. And Henry Anderson's PFF grade, not very good actually, about 56. Well, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong year. Okay, yeah, I knew that was wrong. 74, a PFF grade of 74. So PFF really liked Henry Anderson in 2018. And it's safe to say that with a grade like this, we probably are looking at a better player than Mayowa was in 2020. But statistically, we're not that far off. And I think we're starting to settle into a range of, an asking price that Mayowa could reasonably bring to the table in the offseason. Let's look at one more guy. Let's go past some of the guys on their rookie deals because they're not really relevant for this. And let's take a quick look at a guy who's way down here, actually, to kind of provide a floor at Alex Okafor, who signed a 2-year deal with the Chiefs in 2019 going through this season. So let's see here. Alex Okafor, he, in 2018, had the following stats for the Saints. He had 4 sacks. Mayo was a little bit better, and 22 pressures. So very similar player in terms of raw statistical impact to Benson Mayowa. 2018, 4 sacks, which is not very impressive, but 22 pressures, which is quite good. And his PFF grade for 2018 was actually very nice, 71.5. So I think we've kind of hit the point now where we have some idea of what Benson Mayowa can reasonably ask for. Again, you can't use any one of these stats as a tell-all for how good a player is. Like, I don't advocate for only using PFF grades. I don't advocate for only using sack totals or pressure totals. But I think we've gotten into the area where Benson Mayowa can point to these contracts that this guy got. In the case of Alex Okafor, it was like $6 million a year or so. And he can say, I should be getting this or more. And as you can take a look, if you're saying that Alex Okafor is the floor, he got about $6 million a year. And then I think the ceiling might be somebody like Henry Anderson, who got $8.5 million a year. So I think Mayowa will come somewhere between that. I think if you want to keep Mayowa, unless he is for some reason willing to play for cheap, which happens rarely, but it does happen, you're looking at something like 3 years, $18 million. One caveat, the salary cap is going down. And with a declining salary cap, players like Benson Mayowa are the first to suffer, I think. Because the guys at the bottom are already getting paid bottom tier salaries. That doesn't change that much just because the cap goes down a little bit. The guys at the top are always going to make their money, but it's these guys in the middle, the working class players like your Benson Mayowas, who might see a big pay cut because they're not good enough to justify a big chunk of the cap, but they're too good to ever take, veteran minimum contracts. So maybe the declining cap forces Mayowa to get more like 3 years, $14 million or 2 years, $11 million. But either way, expect Mayowa to look for a pay raise in 2021. The only question that we have is, given that, should we keep him? And I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Peace out, Go Hawks. Thank you for watching. Hope you learned something. There will be another video tomorrow in which I make a little bit of a detour. But, yeah, this series will continue to go on and on with all our significant upcoming free agents. See you guys in stream tonight. Peace out. Go Hawks.